Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Rising. We have another great show for you all today. Kim Iverson is out today, but she'll be back with us tomorrow.
Today, Team Rising will be with us to discuss the influx of corporate vaccine mandates, and The Intercept's Micah Lee discusses some of the big money backing the Tea Party patriots.
But we wanted to start out with some big news that broke yesterday. Virginia Giuffre, one of Jeffrey Epstein's most prominent accusers, has filed a lawsuit against Prince Andrew, accusing the royal of sexually abusing her when she was just 17 years old. Giuffre said that she is, quote, holding Prince Andrew accountable for what he did. The powerful and rich are not exempt from being held responsible for their actions. The claim was filed under the Child Victims Act, which allows survivors to file claims regardless of when the abuse took place. However, the window to file lawsuits will close later this month, which has led to an increase in the number of lawsuits filed in New York. And so this is a law that exempts children from some statutes of limitations, which is quite reasonable because you can't really expect children to know exactly how to file a criminal complaint. And so that's why for this 2001, 2002 crime, she can still go to the police and file this complaint. Andrew has denied the allegations, though we do, of course, have photos with him. There are many other accusers who have backed up the pattern of her allegation. What's your take on this?
Well, listen, it just confirms once again, which we've seen from the outset of this controversy, that there are different rules for the wealthy, the powerful, the connected. And listen, I think the fact that the royal family is still standing behind him shows that we have so far to come in the Me Too era, both domestically and international. I mean, this is a well-documented case of the abuse that took place. We have photos of them together. But I would say also, I mean, it makes a lot of sense to allow her to pursue these charges as somebody who was a minor at some of the time when this took place, needs to have some path for recourse to stand up for herself.
Right, and it's not as if, and so this specific allegation was unknown until 2015 when she made it anonymously in a complaint and then later came forward and said that she was the one that was behind it. But people have known about Andrew's pattern of behavior for a very long time. His global nickname is Randy Andy. And this is before all of this took place. It's not just that lifestyle. He also had been trading on the crown financially for years, and still is working with Banca Haviland, which is the bank that does all of the work for the United Arab Emirates, which is what many people would say is just a center for kind of money laundering and criminal organizations around the globe to kind of move money through, and to have Randy Andy, Prince Andrew, associated with that, and then to have these allegations and still not to be completely ostracized does say a lot.
Oh, and there's no indication they're going to cut bait with him anytime soon. It's just the classic case that we've seen time and time again in this country and elsewhere, that the powerful get away with these things. And I mean, a bigger discussion, I would say, is looking back on the Me Too movement, which did take down some very powerful people, but it sort of seemed to go away at some point. Like you famously covered the Tara Reade accusations with Joe Biden. It's something that I've said time and time again. Men in power abusing their power is party agnostic. We've seen Republicans do it. We've seen Democrats do it. But the decision by some to not even cover or take seriously allegations of sexual abuse has really just empowered those who are going to prey on women. And I'm hoping that this is a wake-up call. I'm hoping that it forces the royal family's hand, but I don't think it's going to.
Yeah, and we're going to cover later in the show that the head of Time's Up, which is the organization that was built in order to pursue these Me Too allegations. Roberta Kaplan resigned for having worked with Andrew Cuomo in his defense against his own allegations, and Time's Up, as we'll discuss later, had also declined to take on Tara Reade's case, saying that they don't deal with politicians who are running for election. So I guess Cuomo, you can defend Cuomo because he's not technically a candidate yet. It's very hard to parse for a victim why it would be okay to defend Andrew Cuomo against an allegation, but you couldn't defend a person making an allegation against a different person unless the only thing connecting the two was partisan politics.
Exactly. And I would say, Virginia Giuffre has really documented this case. She's fought to bring Epstein to justice and others involved. And I hope that this is seen through. I hope that the powerful don't prevail, but we've seen this time and time again.
Well, and in that photo, you saw Ghislaine Maxwell, right? And, lurking in the background there. She's currently in jail awaiting trial. Do you think it's possible that this comes to a head for Andrew and he actually winds up in handcuffs?
I would hope, but I'm not counting on it. I just think that we've seen the wealthy and powerful get away with things like this too often. Listen, the documentation is there. She makes a compelling case, and women like this are so brave to stand up even so far after the fact, taking on somebody as powerful as him. I hope that's what we see. I am not banking on it.
And people are so livid at the loss of Epstein, not because they lament his demise, because they lament the opportunity. For one brief second, people felt like the window was cracking open.
Exactly.
And that they were finally going to get a glimpse into what the kind of global ruling class was up to, and then it was snuffed out along with him. So I think that Maxwell and maybe Andrew will in some ways pay for that.
Exactly. And I would say this, there's a broader discussion here to be had about some of the women who actually assist in these abusers victimizing other women. I think there's a special place in hell for those people, but I do hope that Ghislaine Maxwell still being with us, being charged with this, and as the investigation unfolds, will hopefully tie together that network around Epstein and bring more folks to justice.
And even though Andrew is a prince, and Maxwell was the kind of girlfriend of Epstein and friend of Epstein, she's actually much more central, I think, to this entire network and this situation than he was. Yes, he's making connections. He's helping the UAE get set up with a bank. He's using his name to bring credibility and legitimacy to things around the world. But that's kind of all he's doing. Like he's not exactly the kind of mastermind of anything. He's just a playboy who's along for the ride. Whereas Maxwell does seem like she was much more intellectually and intimately involved with this network. She
seems to be the key to putting the different pieces together and finding more men potentially who were involved in these scandals and who did victimize other women. And
the one thing I do want to remind people of every single time is that there was a report when his townhouse was being searched by the FBI that they found a safe that was filled with CDs that said name of famous person and basically the crime that they had committed, like labeled. Where are they? Where did they go?
Because I think you suspect, as I do, that this goes even higher than we already know it does, higher than Prince Andrew's. There are people who are very, very powerful that are connected to it, and I think that that's when we have rape cover-ups. I am hoping that Maxwell ends up being the key to unlocking a lot of this, but time will tell.
Yeah, let's hope. And we'll have more Rising for you right after this.